I'm Corolla. On socials, I'm @FromCorolla. In this video, I wanted to showcase some of the pocket fountain pens that I have, and I wanted to highlight 3 fountain pens that I acquired recently and do a writing and drawing sample and just talk a little bit more about their design, their nibs, and what makes them unique. So let's take a closer look. So for this video, I'm going to compare the Tom Studio fountain pen, the Benu Pixie, the Pilot E95s, the Kaweco AL Sport, and a Skogsy Baby Sawero, which is a maker pen. So the Tom Studio fountain pen, this is the iris. You'll notice that it has this sort of slip cap, and it's very fixed. It doesn't just slide out. You do have to gently pull on it, and then it fits into the cap, and it's a nice fit, so it doesn't feel like it's going to come off. The surprising thing I found about this is that when you do post this pen, it actually makes it quite long, so it's actually similar to the size of a standard fountain pen. So if I compare it to a standard fountain pen, I'd say it's almost the length of a Pilot Custom 823. It's even longer than some of my other fountain pens. This is a Pilot Vanishing Point. So it's kind of interesting how it elongates the profile of this pen. I would say it feels like it balances the pen really well. And for me, maybe it feels a little bit too long, but not long and not so much that it actually bothers me in any way. I was actually kind of surprised that it makes it this long of a pen. So the nib that I have in it is a titanium flex, and you can see that it's engraved with Tom Studio on it. Very simple, but very elegant and unique. And this is the titanium flex, so it has a bit of flex to it. It should be very durable in terms of metal. And I have it inked up with Robert Oster Sydney Lavender, which I think is a great pairing for this kind of pen. In terms of holding it, it does feel very sturdy. You do have to post it, because if you don't, then it feels very short in your hand. So it kind of fits against the curve of my hand here, and that makes it feel quite uncomfortable or awkward. And so I would definitely post it, and when you post it, it feels like you're writing with a standard pen. In order to use a cartridge in here, or you could use a short converter. It does take short standard international cartridges, or you could refill an empty cartridge if you have one, which I did in this case, or you can use a short cartridge converter. You could also use a short converter in here. And so that's how you fill it up. And now we're going to do a drawing and writing sample. In terms of drawing, it feels very smooth. It handles the loops very well. Be a great sketch fountain pen, I think. And then for writing, it feels pretty comfortable. So it does have some flex to it, so if you gently press down on it, you can get these line variations. Because it's a metal body, it does feel, I wouldn't say it feels too heavy, but it does feel substantial. So you can sort of feel that weight in your hand. So that makes it sort of feels like for a pocket pen, It feels more like a standard fountain pen. So size-wise, it's awesome how portable this actually is. So you could, slide it into your pocket or into your pouch and carry it with you. And then when you actually uncap it, it feels like and writes like a standard fountain pen. So it's actually quite unique and very surprising to me. And it's great to write with. The second fountain pen I wanted to take a look at is the Benu Pixie. This has been out for a little while. It's one of their newer releases. The Pixie is a very small pocket fountain pen, which you can see compared to my other pocket pens is actually quite small, smaller than the Kaweco. And so that would, fit into your pocket or into your pouch really well. It's a twist open. At first, I had a bit of a hard time keeping the cap on while I was writing. So as I was writing, my hand would sort of shimmy the cap and it would wedge itself off. But someone sort of mentioned this, if you find the right spot for it to sit, it will stay sturdy. So it will sort of stay on there without a problem. So I guess it's kind of finding that sweet spot for it, which I think I found this little concave or this little ridge in here. If that sort of rests on your hand, it makes it feel a little bit more comfortable. So I don't know if they did that on purpose. You can sort of see that there. And if you rest that into your hand, like that groove here, I don't know if that's sort of like a standard spot for everyone, but for my hand, it feels pretty comfortable. So for a pocket pen, it actually sits quite nicely in my hand. You do have to post it because, again, with a pocket fountain pen, if you don't have the cap on, it tends to sort of sit awkwardly in your hand here. And so having the cap on actually does feel a lot more comfortable than not having the cap on. So I would definitely post it. I have a broad nib in here. It's a broad Schmidt, so it actually writes really nicely, and I'll show you in a little bit. It also takes short cartridges or a short international converter. Again, I used a cartridge that I had empty, and I just refilled that with an ink that I like. And so that's this pen. When it's posted, it's probably the same size as the Pilot E95s. Still smaller than a standard fountain pen though. But it feels pretty comfortable in the hand. So we're going to do a little bit of writing and drawing with this as well. And I have it inked up with Pelikan Edelstein Aquamarine, which I think is a great pairing for this color, for this pen. And it is with a broad nib, and I find it very smooth and juicy. So if you're a fan of broad nibs, this one's a great one. And so you've noticed as I'm writing, the cap didn't wedge off. It's still pretty sturdy on there. So I think what my recommendation would be is just to find the right angle for it so that it can, fit right into your hand and it doesn't feel like it's going to come off, and it feels very sturdy. You just kind of pop that cap off and twist it back in and you're good to go. The third fountain pen that I recently acquired is the Pilot E95s, and it has a gold nib in medium. And I'm actually kind of surprised I haven't acquired this sooner, but I think it's because it's sort of this classic look to it that may be overlooked when you're, trying to figure out which fountain pen to add to your collection, and you end up going with something really fun and cheery and bright. And this is just one of those pens that, I've had on my wish list for a long time, and I'm finally able to have it in my collection, and I'm really happy with it. So I love that the cap is just a friction fit or slip-on, and it fits really nicely in there. So you have this very satisfying sort of click when it engages, and you know that it's in place. And then when you pull it, it's just very smooth. And I would definitely post this because it feels more comfortable to write with it posted. And in terms of size, when it's posted, it's actually pretty long, so maybe similar to a standard size fountain pen. Also, one thing I should mention is that with the E95s, it does take a pilot converter, and I have seen reviews before where people have stated that you can't see the ink level because of the converter. And so if you use a cartridge, which is kind of my go-to when it comes to pilot pens, I tend to only use cartridges because I can't deal with a converter. So with a cartridge, you can see the ink levels. So I kind of appreciate that about using the cartridge in this E95s, and then I don't have a problem seeing the ink level. Just in case that's something that you've thought about and is something you're considering. And I have it inked up with Diamine Writer's Blood, which is one of my favorite wet inks. And I think it's a great pairing for this pen. In terms of smoothness, it writes very smoothly. I love this nib. It just sort of glides. So, this is the Pilot E95s plus Diamine Writer's Blood. So that feels very comfortable, and it's actually quite light to hold, but very comfortable and well balanced. And the nib just looks so pretty, the way that it's inlaid that way. And just for comparison, I wanted to show two more pocket pens that I have. This one is the Kaweco AL Sport, and this is a metal body. So it feels weighty, a little bit weighty, not too heavy or anything. But this too, I would use posted. It uses a short international cartridge or converter and a short cartridge. And I have it in a fine nib. So I just wanted to compare this just to show you. And personally, I use this Kaweco for drawing, because it just feels so comfortable to hold when I'm sketching or just drawing a quick sort of doodle. And I just have a black cartridge in here. And so I like this pen, like I said, for drawing purposes. It's easy to carry around, and also you can get this clip, this brass clip, so you can hold it or add it to any of your notebooks. In terms of size, it's pretty similar to the other pocket pens, bigger than the Benu, bigger than Tom Studio, but smaller than the E95s. And then the last pen I wanted to show today is a maker pen. And I love that independent makers are making pocket pens. This one is by Skogsy Pens, and it is an Ultim material, so it's a plastic that will endure all. It feels quite light too. It's a twist And I would also post this because it is quite short. So it does use a short cartridge or a short international converter. The nib that I have in it, it uses a number 6 Yovo. So I put in a Franklin Christoph double broad sig. So it's a BB sig with this raven black finish. And so it's really quite pretty, or quite sleek looking. It's quite sleek looking and very classic. And the ink that I have in it is Platinum Chocuro because it's so black, and I felt like that was an amazing pairing for this. So you can see the line variation that you can get with a double broad sig, and works quite well with this pen. It's a Baby Sowero. Platinum Chocuro, which is a pigment ink. So when you're using a pigment ink in a fountain pen, just be aware of being able to, or using it often enough so that it doesn't dry out. And if you are cleaning out a pen using Chocuro or a pigment type of ink, actually if you want to clean out Chocuro, I would recommend using distilled water, as Platinum recommends, just so that it cleans it out properly. But this is one of those pens where I just always have it inked up with this ink. It always has this nib, and this is kind of my go-to pocket fountain pen. And so it's kind of nice to have a variety of pocket fountain pens, just for, you know, their size, their portability, the different nibs that they can have inside, and the different uses that you can have for them. So I hope this was interesting or helpful if you're considering pocket fountain pens. I feel like they all sort of have their uniqueness to them, whether you're into a metal body like the Tom Studio or the Kaweco AL Sport or AL Sport, or if you're into, you know, an acrylic plastic body, and size really interests you, and if you're into, you know, you just want something really tiny to take with you and have the portability, the Benu Pixie is actually quite cute and useful. And then if you want something classic, you have the Pilot E95s with the gold nib that writes really smoothly, very reliable, and then something fun and a way to support independent makers who, you know, push the envelope a little bit on the shapes and designs, and something fun to carry around with you. The Skogsy would be a great pen for that. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you've used any of these pens, if you're into pocket fountain pens. I'd love to know. I'm Corolla on Instagram and socials. You can find me at @FromCorolla. I'll see you next time. Bye.